Good morning, or rather afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, researchers, innovators, and fans of technology. Before we dive in, I'd like to ask if there's somebody who does not speak or understand Slovak, so we would rather switch to Slovak language. So you are not Slovak speaking. Okay. Do you have a translator? No. Okay, then we'll continue in English. Thank you very much for the invitation. Happy to be here again in Košice. As I was honored for the invitation, I'm always happy to be here. And I have only the great experience being here as I successfully finished the half marathon here in your city last year. My name is Juraj Majera. I'm working for Turn Technology, and I used to work for Porsche Engineering in the department of the powertrains, and I was privileged to work on the first fully electric car from Porsche, the Taycan, on the battery system and its powertrain. So that's briefly about myself, but I would like to connect to the previous presentation. So who were convinced to buy an electric car, or if you can raise your hand? So DJ, okay, so I see 1, 2, okay. Maybe hydrogen car? So I guess you rather stick to the combustion, but let's see how it works with the bus transportation. So what we're going to talk about today is about the motivation of the decarbonization. Then I would like to share some legal directions, so why it's all happening, with an example. What does it mean with the market? So how does it evolve? Who are the stakeholders in the public transportation, and what is the relationship between them? Challenges and current solutions when adopting and operating zero-emission buses. And then I'll quickly share also about our company and how do we solve it. So let's get into it. So why do you think we need to decarbonize our city? I'll again use the wisdom of the audience. So what do you think? If you can raise your hand. So it's the air pollution, for example, you think? So I see too few voices. What about the global warming? If you can raise, so a little bit more. And maybe it's only the legal direction. So somebody thought it out. Let's make it happen. So what do you think? It's maybe the legal. Okay. I see one way. So it's the consequences of one of another. So in Europe, we have 400,000 premature deaths every year caused by the air pollution. And it is really the single largest environmental health risk causing these deaths. If you think about it, and we look at the size of the share of the buses on the roads, it's only 1% of all vehicles on the road are buses. And compared to that, they produce 25% of the whole emissions produced in the transport sector. So there is a huge asymmetry. For this reason, European Union has issued Clean Vehicle Directive that reflects also into the national laws and directives. And it's quite complicated, but I'll try to make it easy and also with an example. However, they set minimum mandatory targets for procuring clean and zero-emission buses in 2 periods from 2021 to 2025 and from 2026 to 2030. So let's see the example. So imagine there is a bus operator in Hungary, and he is about to procure 10 buses in this first period, 2021 to 2025. And the Clean Vehicle Directive sets target of 37%. So it's quite easy to calculate, okay, so that means 4 buses have to be clean. However, half of the buses have to be zero emission. So 2 zero emission. Now let's quickly share what does it mean clean and what does it mean zero emission bus. Clean bus meaning it could be CNG, battery electric, or fuel cell hydrogen. However, the zero-emission buses are such as like subcategory, and here counts only battery electric or hydrogen. Let's see that the same operator is about to procure another 10 buses in the second period, and there's a 53% target. So what do you think, how many clean buses he has to procure? Let's try some guess from your side. Don't be shy. Okay. Yes, 6. Good. That's what would you think? Actually, there are could not be procured any clean buses from 2026, and it has to be only zero emission, and it's actually those 6. So there's really only the short period for the CNG or CNG technology. So if you think about it, in the first period we had 2 buses and suddenly 6 buses. But if you think about like the percentage, the market dynamics is huge. So really, whole Europe will have to adopt and operate zero-emission buses in following years. So really, the targets are really challenging. And so does the same, or the same says the market history or from the last year. So the registrations of zero-emission buses increased by 48%, and it's really dynamic. However, let's compare it with the targets. So Clean Vehicle Direct, or let's say in Europe, there's around 30,000 new registrations of the buses. And if we just use some average value, it's around, let's say 50%. So there's got to be 15,000 in the next year, even higher number of new registrations. Compared to the up-to-date market dynamics, there's a huge gap, and the bus operators will need to adopt those buses quickly with the following years. So that's what we talk about, the motivation and legislation with an example, and what awaits us in the following years. If you think about, if you do not work in the bus industry, you just think, okay, my bus is operated by my city, there are some bus operator, but really people are not that involved in it. So how does it work? So in order to understand the challenges, we need to explain the stakeholders and the relationships between them. So the municipalities, let's say the city of Košice, is the one who guarantees the operation. Guarantees the service. So he's the one he needs to provide to his citizens that the operation is going to be there for you with some frequency, with some quality, and they are the ones who define which bus goes where, and where are the bus stops, and so on. And then they open a tender, and they look for suppliers. And in this case, it could be any operator. In Košice, you have a dopravný podnik mesta Košice, so this city operator, but it's another entity, so they work on themselves. And the operators are the ones who needs to fulfill or do the job and offer the service. And then we have the bus manufacturers. So if you think about it, the bus manufacturers have been developing or producing their buses for the last, 50 years the same way, or more or less the same way, and suddenly they need to build a whole new product. And not only that, they also have another challenge to switch from selling the bus to providing a turnkey solution. So I'll share a story with you when talking to a bus representative, sales representative actually, and he told me in London that, when I used to sell buses in recent years, all I needed to answer was like, what is the price, what is the consumption, what is the guarantee? I sold the bus, and probably for the next several years, I had no issue. That was it really. Now, the operator comes and asks, what is the range? What is the battery guarantee? Do I need to replace my battery? How does the bus behave in winter? What about the charging infrastructure? How I'm going to make it work? Even a small thing such as the order of the buses and how do they park in depot has been totally changed. So the bus manufacturers have their own challenges ahead, and they need to provide those informations to their customers. And as I already started with the challenges, I wanted to ask you again, but we are running out of time. So as I talk about, the first challenge is the legal requirement itself. Just for an example, so you can imagine what does it mean, this Clean Vehicle Directive reflects to the national government, and there is a penalty of up to €1 million if the legal directions are not fulfilled. €1 million, so that's, I would say, quite destructive. Then as we talk about the complexity of the zero-emission buses, so all those questions, how I'm going to operate it, which technology should I choose, battery, hydrogen, opportunity charging, distance, like with the battery, bigger batteries and depot charging. So there's really like a whole list of questions that needs to be answered. And definitely it's not something that you can figure out in Excel or, I don't know, with any other way. And then the operation strategy itself. I mean, you see the bus coming from one bus stop to another, but from the perspective of the operator, there's a different really view on it. So they need to look from the dispatcher point of view, how they will operate it. Because if there's the shift of the driver and the bus for the next 8 hours, and the bus is not going to make it, and it needs to go back to the depot, that means they need to replace one conventional bus, for example, with 2 electric, and that's definitely not cost effectively. So let's look at it. How do they solve it actually? So the first solution is quite, I would say, straightforward. So you think about, okay, I'm about to buy a product. Let's try it. So they borrow the bus, put it in the operation, collect some data, see how it works, really kind of try and error approach, see how it works. But of course, this is not possible to do, I don't know, for the whole year season. You cannot do it for all different bus models, for all different technologies. You cannot really, let's say, test opportunity charging if it's better than the depot charging, because you would have to build a whole infrastructure. And it takes usually several months, requires the whole stuff. And in the end, if you need to collect those data, evaluate, this is I can tell you, quite a nightmare. But this is really how it's been doing so far. The other way, let's say you're going to use some Excel, but let's say a little bit more smart. So you use some driving cycles, and as in bus industry, there's this one called SORT. You might rather know the NEDC or WLTP. Let's say some testing procedure, you're going to try out how does the bus behave, what is the consumption and range. But again, you cannot put all the different situations from different regions, from different cities in one average number. It's just not possible to put it all in. And for this reason, the operation is then ineffective. So they know, the operators, they know the numbers are not trustworthy. They do not believe it. They do not believe any calculations. And they rather use the huge battery and using only, I don't know, 30–40% of the state of charge of the capacity, and they only operate on the so-called low-hanging fruit routes. What again does not make really sense, because you're going to buy an expensive bus and you're going to operate it on a short bus line or a bus block where it does not really earn the money. So again, it's not only the whole preparation, but then the operation might be ineffective. So why do I talk about it? And why I'm presenting the whole topic of the decarbonization is because that our team at Turn Technology, we have developed a simulation software. So imagine that instead of this whole physical testing, sending the bus there and, I don't know, complicated Excel sheet and all the, I don't know, total cost of ownership calculation, you would have a tool where you can put it in, see how it works, and go for the best option. So at Turn Technology, we have developed a simulation software that fully replaces the physical testing with a virtual one, really allowing us to simulate and compare thousands of scenarios anywhere in the world in 4 steps. So really, instead of sending the bus there, you're just going to sit in your office, open your Google Chrome, look at the software, and you're going to see how does your operations going to work. We not only help the operators, let's stick to the technology first. So how does it work? I like to describe it as a SimCity. I hope at least some of you know the game, so you are building the city and really managing it. So it's quite similar. So what we do, we combine a different thing. So first of all, we need to look at the city requirements. So for example, we had a project in Cambridge, and they simply did not want to have opportunity charging because it would not look, let's say, nicely in the city building the whole infrastructure. So first, we need to take into account city requirements. Then we take the routes and timetables from the operators. in a digital format. More or less, it's the list of GPS coordinates with the timelines where and when the bus occur at the moment. We combine those timetables or link with the real-world data from third parties, so such as elevation, weather, traffic, speed, number of passengers are then inputs for our mathematical model of the zero-emission bus. Again, we take the data from the bus manufacturer about the weight, front area, aerodynamic coefficients, the powertrain efficiency, and we are able to virtually ride the bus in your city in a specific day, in a specific hour, and see how it works. So by providing those insights to the public transport operators, we not only help them to efficiently and effectively plan the whole operation, but we also help bus manufacturers to actually design and tailor-make their products according to the needs of their customers and therefore succeed in tenders and succeed in the market. We have currently 4 projects across Europe. So one is in Slovakia, in Skalica, actually, the Cambridge I mentioned, and recently we won a tender in Barcelona, and we have a new project also in Austria. I would like to close my speech with one of the thoughts that I had in mind, that I think already in Europe, and as I see at the conference, is that we already know that it is a must to decarbonize the public transportation. However, there is still an option to make it really efficiently and economically sustainable. Thank you very much for your attention, and happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you very much.
Juraj Majera, Tirn Technology. Neviem, či máme aj otázky, ktoré prišli prostredníctvom aplikácie Slovakia Tech. Ak sa tu nič nezobrazuje, tak asi tu nie sú, ale predsa len máme nejaké otázky z publika? Ste zvedaví na niečo? Nech sa páči, skúste.
Jak dostávate od zákazníkov, ktorí si to vás objednávajú, parametre tých strojov, pre ktoré to vypočítavate?
Poprosíme stručnú odpoveď.
Funguje mi mikrofón? Áno? Dobre. Spolupracujeme jak s výrobcami autobusov, tak aj s dopravnými podnikmi. To znamená, že je tam tá spolupráca a tie dáta nám vlastne poskytujú priamo výrobcovia autobusov. Takže máme ich priamo od nich.
Je niekto ďalší, kto sa chce ešte niečo spýtať? Ak nie, tak veľmi pekne ďakujeme.